Good afternoon, I'm Atik Rumi, bringing you the news on Gold FM.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
Overnight policy rate remains unchanged, inflation to reach 5% in second quarter. Opposition leader calls for abolishment of Parate law. Trump says Iran ready to make a deal, Vance and Marco Rubio to join Iran talks. Pentagon to deploy thousands of US soldiers to Middle East. Oil prices drop following US-Iran negotiations.
The top story on Gold FM.
The central bank's Monetary Policy Board maintained the overnight policy rate at 7.75%. In a statement, the CBSL said that the current low level of inflation at 1.6% year-on-year in February this year, relative to the target of 5%, provides sufficient space to accommodate the impact of higher energy prices and their spillovers on inflation. It added that given the latest available data and prevailing uncertainties, inflation is now expected to reach the targets earlier than previously anticipated. This is what Director of Economic Research Dr. Lasitha Pathberia had to say while addressing the briefing on the Monetary Policy Review today.
So inflation, we now expect to reach the target of 5% in Q2 2026, which is earlier than previously anticipated, and this is driven by increases in energy prices.
The central bank noted that the economy recorded a strong real growth of 5% in 2025, despite the disruptions caused by Cyclone Ditwa towards the end of the year, and added that leading economic indicators point to a strong post-cyclone recovery during early 2026. However, spillovers from the ongoing conflict could weigh on domestic economic activity in the period ahead should the conflict be prolonged. The CBSL stated that gross official reserves increased to $7.3 billion at the end of February this year, and the central bank purchased a substantial amount of foreign exchange from the market in the first 2 months of the year. However, the central bank is of the view that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East poses risks to Sri Lanka's external sector outlook, particularly through energy, tourism, trade and remittance flows, although the overall magnitude of the impact remains uncertain.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation confirms that fuel distribution remains normal despite regional energy concerns. Managing Director Mayura Nettikumarage stated that 3 vessels carrying essential fuel stocks will arrive in the country within the next few days. The corporation assures the public that existing supplies are sufficient to meet national requirements, and in the interest of clarity, we refrained from dubbing his remarks.
මේ වෙද්දී අපිට පේන එක තමයි තෙල් බෙදා හැරීම ඉතාම සාමාන්‍ය තත්ත්වයට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. 27 28 එක නවක් එන්න තියෙනවා, 28 29 තව නවක් එන්න තියෙනවා, 30 31 තවත් නවක් එන්න තියෙනවා. උදේ පරීක්ෂා කරද්දී එම ලොකුවට පොලිමක් තිබුණේ නැහැ. හැබැයි සමහරලාට පොඩි වාහන 5ක 10ක වගේ පොලිමක් සමහරලාට හිටිනවා. මොකද QR කෝඩ් එකෙන් යහන හින්දා අනිත් සමහර සමාගම් තෙල් බෙදා හැරීම යම් කිසි විදිහකට පොඩි සීමා කිරීමක් කරලා තියෙනවා කියලා. නමුත් කන්ට්‍රෝල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාව පැත්තෙන් ගත්තාම කිසිම සීමා කිරීමක් කළා නැහැ.
Meanwhile, fuel stations across the island today issue supplies to vehicles with odd-numbered license plates. While this rationing system reduces long queues at many locations, farmers in several regions report significant difficulties obtaining fuel quotas for agricultural machinery. Those waiting at stations expressed frustration over the impact on crop production and harvesting. Energy Minister Kumara Jaikodi calls on the public to limit electricity consumption to prevent a looming energy crisis. Speaking at the Gampha District Coordinating Committee meeting yesterday, he emphasized the urgent need for citizens to minimize power usage. Meanwhile, Minister Sunil Hamdannetti suggested that residents in major towns turn off unnecessary lights. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa called on the government to abolish the Parate law to provide relief to struggling entrepreneurs. During a meeting with small and medium business owners, Premadasa highlighted the severe financial strain caused by rising fuel prices. In the interest of clarity, we refrained from dubbing his remarks.
අපිට අහන්නට ලැබුණා හැම අවස්ථාවකදීම රජය කියනවා ට්‍රිලියන ගණන් මුදල් ඉතුරු කරලා තිබෙනවායි. මහා භාණ්ඩාගාරයේ අර මුදල් ඉතිරි ගිහිලා තිබෙනවායි. දැන් තමයි කාලය එළඹිලා තිබෙන්නේ. බිඳ වැටුණු කඩාවැට ශුද්ධ කුඩා හා මධ්‍ය පරිමාණයේ කර්මාන්තකරුවන් නැවත ඔසවා තබන. පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය, කොවිඩ් කොරෝනා වසංගතය, රට බංකොලොත්වි, දිත්වා සුලි කුණාටුව, දැන් මැද පෙරදිග යුද්ධ. මේ ඛේදවාචකයන් පහ තුල තාමත්ම කනගාටුවෙන් හෝ කියන්නට ඕන අපේ රටේ ආර්ථිකයට විශාලතම ශක්තියක් ලබා දෙන ශුද්ධ කුඩා හා මධ්‍ය පරිමාණයේ කර්මාන්තකරුවන්ට නිසි සැලකිල්ල තවමත් ලැබෙයි. අපි රජයට යෝජනා කරමු. නැවතත් වරක් පරාටේ නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම වහා නතර කරමු.
Now for some news in brief.
Police arrested 17 foreigners, including Chinese and Vietnamese nationals, in Podala over allegations of cybercrimes following a joint raid with army intelligence.
The business news on Gold FM.
Gold prices in the local market rose today following a notable decrease yesterday. A 24-carat gold sovereign now costs 393,000 rupees, marking an 8,000 increase. Similarly, the price of a 22-carat sovereign reached 361,500 rupees. The Sri Lanka Jewelers Association attributes these fluctuations to the ongoing Middle East conflict, which continues to drive volatility in precious metal rates.
International news on Gold FM.
US President Donald Trump said that Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are leading negotiations with Iran, expressing optimism that a deal is in sight. The Trump administration has reportedly conveyed to Iran a plan with 15 conditions for ending the war. Iranian officials informed the Trump administration today that they refuse to negotiate with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner. Tehran expressed a preference for engaging directly with Vice President J.D. Vance to discuss a potential end to the conflict. Sources indicate a deep deficit of trust following the collapse of previous talks led by Witkoff and Kushner before military action began. Meanwhile, addressing the media in White House, the US president shared his thoughts on the talks with Iran.
We're in negotiations, as it turned out, and now you've seen what I said yesterday was exactly correct. We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it, and the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal. And who wouldn't if you were there? Look, their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their communications are gone. That's the biggest problem. It's very hard to communicate them between themselves. All of the anti-aircraft is gone. Most of their missiles are gone. We either shot them or they shot them and don't have them anymore. Down to a trickle. They're pretty much everything they have is gone. I don't know. Can you name one thing that's not gone, or can you name one thing that's doing well? You know, if you read the papers, you think we're tied. You think we're in a tough battle. We are roaming free over Tehran. As you know, today we were going to have the privilege of shooting down a very big electric generation plant, one of the biggest in the world, and one shot to the right location ends the plant and collapses. And we held off based on the fact that we're negotiating.
He said that Iran agreed not to have a nuclear weapon.
Remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Trump said that his actions prevented Iran from using a nuclear weapon earlier.
If Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. And if I didn't end the horrible Barack Hussein Obama Iran nuclear deal in my first administration, they would have had a nuclear weapon 3 or 4 years ago. They would have used it. I would have never gotten the chance probably to be president. Who knows what it would have been so devastating. And if we didn't send those beautiful B-2 bombers, you would have had them having 2 weeks after that attack, had we not made the attack, they would have had a nuclear weapon. They would have absolutely used it. And they would have used it on the entire Middle East, including Israel.
When quizzed whether he is encouraging the US's allies in the Gulf to be more involved in the Iran operation, this is what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but more NATO. I think our Gulf allies have been pretty good, to be honest with you. UAE's been hit so hard. He got hit by 1,400 rockets, shot them all out of the air with our great Patriot missiles. Think of it, they shot 100 missiles at one of our aircraft carriers, the Abraham Lincoln, one of the biggest ships in the world, actually. And out of 101 missiles shot, every single one of them was knocked down in the sea. Think of that.
Trump also claimed that Iran gave the US a significant prize.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present, worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me, we'd deal with the right people. It wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did.
Finally, the US president expressed confidence that they've won the war.
How hopeful are you that this peace deal will work out with Iran?
Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. You know, I don't like to say this. This war has been won. Just like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country.
Meanwhile, an Iranian military spokesman today dismissed President Donald Trump's claims that Tehran seeks a deal to end the regional war. Ibrahim Zolfaqari, representing the Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, characterized the 15-point American plan as Washington negotiating with itself. The official taunted the United States leadership via state media, asserting that regional stability remains dependent on Iranian armed forces. Zolfaqari further stated that international investments and pre-war energy prices will not return until the United States accepts Tehran's security role in the Middle East. Against this backdrop of negotiations, Israel struck the Iranian capital, Tehran, today. The Israeli Defense Forces said in a Telegram post that it had launched a wave of strikes targeting infrastructure across Tehran. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said the US and Israel attacked the Bushehr nuclear power plant, saying a projectile landed within its compound without causing damage. Meanwhile, the US prepares to send thousands of soldiers from this 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East amid a massive military buildup. Sources indicate the deployment includes between 3,000 and 4,000 troops from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. In the meantime, international oil prices fell sharply in Asia today following reports of progress in Middle East peace negotiations. Brent crude dropped 5% to $99.29 a barrel, while United States crude fell over 5.5%. Market sentiment improved after Tehran announced that non-hostile vessels may use the Strait of Hormuz shipping route.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Warner Brothers announced that late-night host and Tolkien fanatic Stephen Colbert and his son, screenwriter Peter McGee, are developing a new Lord of the Rings film titled The Lord of the Rings: Shadows of the Past, with the news revealed via social media. The film will draw from 6 early chapters of The Fellowship of the Ring that were not adapted in Peter Jackson's 2001 film and follows Sam, Merry and Pippin retracing their first steps 14 years after Frodo's passing, while Sam's daughter uncovers a long-buried secret.
Sports news on Gold FM.
A consortium comprising Aditya Birla Group, Times of India Group, Bolt Ventures and Blackstone's BXPE has acquired full ownership of Royal Challengers Bengaluru for approximately $1.78 billion in an all-cash deal. This was announced by the existing owner, United Spirits Limited. The sum surpasses the combined value of the Lucknow and Ahmedabad IPL franchises sold in 2021, making it the most expensive cricket franchise sale in history. The acquisition covers both the men's and women's RCB teams, the current champions in the IPL and the WPL respectively. That's it for the news. I'm Atik Rumi. Have a great day.